Okay, in this lesson we're going to discuss how to graph constant functions. And when I say constant, what I mean is usually you only see one variable show up, whether it's an x or a y. It's like one of them's missing, and these can be the easiest thing in all of algebra, but for whatever reason they're commonly misunderstood. They're kind of counterintuitive. They're backwards to the way you would normally think. So let's analyze what they really mean. Let's start with this function, x equals 2. Now notice first of all there isn't a y there. So that means we can kind of treat this like other functions. We're just going to pretend that y could be anything. There's no restrictions on it. Let's do a table of values, kind of like you do in a lot of other graphing. Okay? Now here's how we make this work for these situations. Y is not in the function. I do not see a y in that equation. So I'm just going to put any numbers I want for y. I'll put 0, 1, and 2. Anything you want. You pick any numbers. But this function tells me that x has to equal 2. Every single time, no matter what y is, x has to be 2. So I'm going to put 2, 2, 2. I've got 2's everywhere in that x column, and that's all I'll ever get in that x column. Now what this gives me is 3 points to graph. Let's start with 2, 0. 2, 0, this one right there, ends up at 2 on the x-axis, 0 on the y-axis. 2, 1, that ends up at 2 on the x-axis, 1 on the y-axis. 2, 2, that ends up at 2 on the x, 2 on the y. And you can see the pattern already. Okay? I basically have a straight line up and down, a vertical line that passes through 2 on the x-axis. Now it's kind of backwards because usually when you see the letter x you think of left and right, you think of horizontal. But when we're talking about an equation of a line, it tells us where it cuts through or touches the x-axis. And these points kind of give you that hint, give you that intuition. Now let's jump over and try one that's the other way. Okay, y equals negative 3. Let's approach this the same way. X, y. Now this time, notice it says y has to be negative 3. So everywhere in this chart, I'm going to put negative 3, for y. Nothing else. What that means, x isn't even there in the equation, so x can be anything I want. 0, 1, and 2. Now we see a similar relationship that we had in the blue one, only things are reversed. So let's graph these 3 points and just see what it shows us. 0 for the x means I don't go left or right, but negative 3 means I go down 3 on the y-axis. 1, negative 3 means I go to the right 1, down 3. Okay, the next point is 2, negative 3. And you can see that this is going to be a horizontal line that cuts through the y-axis at negative 3. Okay. And once again, it's kind of backwards. Usually when you see the letter y, you think up and down, you think vertical. Well, that's the y-axis, that's true. And that's y-coordinates, we always go up and down. But when it's an equation of a line, like this is, where there's an equals sign, that's telling you where it actually touches the y-axis. It's actually kind of reversed from your normal pattern of thinking. So there's constant functions. Now definitely there's shortcuts to this. You don't have to do a table of values. This isn't absolutely necessary. What I found though is a lot of people will try to take a shortcut on this one and they will get it reversed because it's kind of counterintuitive. They'll do it backwards. And so if you want to avoid that problem, pick a few points, put in which coordinate has to be there. In this case it was the negative 3. Put where it has to go. It's got to be in the y, and that will help you not make that mistake later on.